All right, hey everybody. I'm just going to be adjusting the audio a little bit. Let me know if I am sounding horrible. We're going to be switching over live in just a second. This is Sean Hayes with the Ration Museum Project. I'm really looking forward to rekindling some old friendships and getting this thing back up and running. Hey, K-Man, good to see you joining. All right, let me go live here. See, as long as everybody can hear me, think I should be good for switching over. Alrighty, so welcome to the Ration Museum as it exists in 2020. It's been brought back out of storage, and the project that we've got ahead of us over the rest of this year is cataloging everything that we've got in here and getting an actual museum up and running. I'd love to get a team going, and hopefully that's what this is going to help drum up. I really look forward to working with everybody again. So without further ado, I'm going to jump down here so that I can actually see what you guys are saying. And we're just going to do a little meet and greet for a bit before I dive into all kinds of fun stuff. Oh, all right. So let's see. Let's do some hellos. Howdy to, I see we got Dub C, Eats Treats and MREs. We've got Aletha. We got Dubs. We got Xenosaga. We got K-Man as MRE Info. Welcome, welcome. I know a lot of you are here because Old Smokey's been having my back through all this and has been letting you guys know that this is coming up. I'll admit I'm not super well prepared, not super well versed with all this, so I'm doing my best. It's going to be a lot of winging it, but I figured put a date on it and just do it would be the best way to move forward with all this. So, a little background. This is the nonprofit group, the Military Ration Museum, that I founded in 2015. It is really just me for the most part for all this time. There's been some really great folks in the ration collecting community that have stepped up and allowed their names to be associated with the museum for all this time in order for us to have gotten through the initial paperwork and getting everything up and running with the IRS to get our 501c3 and yeah, it's going to be great to get some more folks directly involved again, so that we're actually getting some projects moving. So, where's everybody from before we dive in too far? And thanks, Zeno. I will do my best. Welcome from Mississippi and North Carolina, Indiana. Hey, we're all over the place already. This is great. Canada, Iowa, UK. Hey, I'm glad I started at 5 instead of a little later tonight, like I was originally thinking. So glad you're making it from across the pond. Howdy from Kansas. All right. So I know that's why we're doing this. We've got folks all over the place, and I think we can all agree this is a global passion. You know, a lot of us have had friends in Japan, in Russia, in Argentina because of this hobby, and we've reached out to them using Google Translate and the mreinfo.com forums for long time now, and it's just great to try and put all of us together and get a project rolling. Well, I see. Dub says he's really good at eating rations and helping with PC stuff. both very important in this whole project. So we're going to be trying to be as into this new online world as we can, with everybody having to take a step back and try and think of better ways to share what they have without necessarily bringing people to the physical space where it's at. Then things like being able to catalog and share our collection in a really clean and usable way is going to be more and more important. So it looks like we got some more folks. Hey, Old Smoky joining. Got some new subscribers. Thanks so much, everybody. We're gonna just start out by talking a little bit about the museum itself. So I got into ration collecting through the Boy Scouts initially. I was on a trip, and we were doing a couple-day hike, and they gave me some rations. And I was like, what the heck are these things? These are fantastic. It's a whole meal that you can cook yourself without a stove, without any of that. So that led to needing to find more and more, and bit by bit trying older and older rations. And it got to this point where I started thinking, some of the stuff that I'm getting to eat, I just can't bring myself to eat. It's too important, and it may be the only one. And especially back then, we had no idea. So I started putting things to the side and saying, well, maybe if I get 2, I'll eat one of these, or maybe if I get 3, I'll eat one of these. And then before I knew it, I had kind of drifted away from being a ration reviewer that sat down and ate these things, and more got into the history of what led to the development of each of these things, and what led to the cancellation of so many of these things. And that led to just this completist kind of approach to trying to find 1 of everything, or 2 of everything, or 6 of everything. So it built and built and built until I realized, I was sitting on a collection that could potentially have some value to the general public. And so we started trying to figure out how do we get this thing off the ground in a way that more people can help with. And the idea of making it a nonprofit historic preservation group was the best at the time, and we pushed forward with that, got ourselves accredited, and thought, any moment now we'll just dive right into getting a property and getting off the ground. But life happened, a lot of things got in the way, and the rations went into storage. So everything's been properly preserved and kept clean and dry and cool for the time between the last one a lot of you saw me in the community, which was around the time of the Ration Symposium in Doswell, Virginia, until now, where we're coming back, and we're bringing everything back into the limelight and into the public eye. So a lot's happened, and a lot of it for the better. So I'm glad, actually, at this point, that I didn't rush into anything without any real headspace for what it would take to get an actual museum that has a real functional ability to deliver information to a huge number of people, up and running. I'm thinking this time around we're going to see a much better focus. We're going to be able to take advantage of a lot of new technology to collaborate with each other, to bring as many folks into this as possible, to really share our passion for how all this stuff has changed. Not only the way we as Americans live and eat, but really the lifespans of humans in general. The way we store food, the things that we've gotten from rations. It's just amazing. So with that, I'm going to pause again a little bit and open up for some questions about, in general, what we are, or what we're trying to do, anything like that. I see a question from just a moment ago from Corey, box with the blue text behind me. I think you're looking at, right here. So this is, let's see. going to be able to bring this camera around. Switch. There we go. That off for just a moment. There we go. So yeah, this is this I got sent over from Germany actually quite a while back. It's still sealed. I have not touched anything on it, but this is a British 10-man ration. It's similar to a U.S. UGR in that it's the entire meal for multiple soldiers all at once, or kind of like an old ration, small detachment, 5 persons, or I wonder if I have any other good group rations in here. But yeah, that's definitely an MOD use British rat. So let's see. All right, so and bear with me while I get used to like trying to actively read chat and talk to chat. I swear I'll get better at it. But so yeah, this stuff I'll have to just preface with the cost of everything, the exact acquisition of everything. I'm going to need to dig through 7 or 8 years of notes at some point and really put that together as part of the museum. But a lot of this has been purchased and in the collection for anywhere between 4 and 20 years. We mainly have things like these, just crates and cases and examples and all that kind of stuff, and then we've got a library of things, but it's not necessarily like a big trade collection just yet. We do have stuff that's going to be back up for trading, because that is always one of the best ways to get things moving. But we are going to have to reevaluate what it's all worth, because one of the steps ahead of us is ensuring the collection in case anything ever were to happen and the museum needed to not completely fall apart, due to something like that. So cataloging, pricing, evaluating, it's gonna be a lot of work, but we're gonna get through it. Has the USDA given me any problems? So in the earlier days, not so much the USDA themselves, but customs and immigration is probably the bane of a lot of ration traders and ration collectors' existence. Yeah, there's been so many problems with attempting to get something from overseas. For a few years there, we seem to be having a lot of luck. I don't know how it stands these days. In my hiatus, there's only a few things that I went out and actually had to acquire for the museum. One of which was a collection of meals that spent a year on the Mir space station. So there was just no way they were going, or they weren't going to end up in the museum collection. But other than that, for the most part, a lot of the stuff was bought a few years back. But that being said, trades between me and European forum members usually go pretty well. The old camping supplies marking usually works out pretty well. But over the years, I've definitely seen some one-of-a-kind things, and some really amazing rations unfortunately lost to time, or tossed in some customs and immigrations dumpster, and you get your empty box with a notice. Rations still in shipment from April. Well, it's only June, and if they're coming from Russia, that's a good, you're still fine. There's some great forum members from back in the day. I wonder if they're still around, that were always willing to try and do these trades from within the Russian Federation. That it took a little trust, because they generally get your half of it within a week or two, and then you'd have tracking, but it might be 3 weeks. It might be 7 months before yours show up. I think was the worst. I think it was around 7 months. There was one time where the entire Russian post in the eastern chunk was just shut down for like 2 months. Let's see. We got a good question. How many people do we have volunteering and working on the museum? So we've got a couple people, that are tangentially involved in terms of they'll help here and there where they can. I would count Old Smoky among them in terms of trying to help. I mean, look at how much this helped. There's people here for our first stream ever. I mean, how many streamers are that lucky that they get to turn on and have a ton of folks in chat right away that are ready to go. So I've got Kim Scott in Bozeman, Montana, still lending his services as an archive historian, former member of the National Archives and tenured professor at Montana State University. He's been of great help in getting our original collection display up and running out in Montana before I moved out to Philadelphia, and in just helping with weigh in on techniques and stuff, keeping this stuff preserved. We've got a few folks helping with trying to craft some grant proposals right now, but that's really it. This is one of the first big reach outs to everybody to say, we need folks that know what they're doing with social media, folks that know what they're doing with content creation, folks that know what they're doing with video editing, with actual handling and preservation of rations, with photography, with all kinds of things, where over the next few months we really want to get this up to speed. We're going to need some folks that have their or have a bit more of a head for accounting and finance than I do, just to make sure that I haven't put the museum in any dangerous position over the years by just my lack of experience with doing nonprofit paperwork on my own for 5 years. We're still in good standing as of a week ago, so we'll see how that all picks back up. I know I do have some work with the state of Montana that we still need to do in terms of classifying us properly. There's all kinds of stuff. Let's see. I lost track of this a bit. A Kazakhstanian ration took 4 months. Yeah, that's. I don't know if I got it a week after it came out of the factory. I don't know if I'd still trust it. Those were those like super light green ones, or the long multi-can kind of package. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've seen a Kazakhstanian one. If anybody at all is interested in seeing how and what they can contribute, there's an email address in the bottom corner here, volunteer@rationmuseum.com. For right now, just reach out and let me know your name and some generals about what kind of skills you think you might be able to add. We're going to be spinning up a group collaboration tool, something like Slack or Discord or Notion, in the next week, and trying to get everybody invited to that so that we can all start a conversation around what are the tasks and what can we do, because it's gonna move along if we just do one little piece at a time and keep things simple. We don't need to say our goal is to have doors open in a month and have 1,000 people in the door. No, our goal right now is to inventory what we have, and then our goal is to start talking about how do we bring this to the people. How do we get the most impact with what we have, and how do we eventually, one of the most important goals of the museum is how do we help veterans as a result of this. We're going to be trying to have a place where disabled or returning veterans can work 4 hours a week, 8 hours a week, 16 hours a week, whatever kind of schedule they want within an environment that's similarly themed, as a stepping stone kind of thing. So we do want a physical location that people can come to at some point that has a goal of staffing veterans. So I don't ever want to lose track of that. And there's a lot between here and there, but making sure that we do things one piece at a time and do them right, I think we'll get there, and we'll get there in a way that actually helps people. We want to potentially make traveling collections before our actual doors are open, sharing a themed exhibit that can be made safe to transport with another museum that is willing to help spread the name and or share our name and spread the cause or spread the love, whatever. That's something that's hopefully a shorter term goal. There's a lot of individual collections within the overall collection that we'll be able to break things down into that could present their own interesting micro stories. Canceled. I am currently located in Philadelphia. We don't have a open to the public setup, but I'm by all means open to talking to ration collectors and arranging private tours and that sort of stuff. So I'll put that out there. For the most part, right now, you can see we've actually gotten it all pretty directly accessible. It was in a state where everything was buried layer upon layer upon layer for a very long time, and I just wanted to make sure that we got everything back out into a space where we could see what we have, because there's a lot, and it's easy to lose track of just these little things that happen to be everywhere within the collection. Let's see. Northeast Pennsylvania. Hey, that's where I grew up. I'm from Ricketts Glen State Park, so I grew up in the park. I don't know if you know that one, but that usually works a little better than saying Red Rock, Pennsylvania, which I don't think still has a post office. Oh, Nescopec. Oh, okay. Yeah, I went to high school not too far from there at Northwest. So that's small world syndrome right there. You never know. Bloomsburg. I lived in Bloomsburg from '99 through '01. That's funny. Well, so that's a little background about the museum and just a little tiny bit about myself. Oh, let's see. Do you have any halal rations in the collection? Yep. I do have some examples of the U.S. halal rations, and then somewhere in this collection, I think the only other ration that might be halal would be I have a Saudi Arabian ration from Desert Storm era. So that might actually be the only other one. I know I have examples of the IDF rations that would be kosher, but I'm trying to think of any other countries with halal rations that I might have stumbled across. And I'm drawing a blank at the moment. But with that in mind, we can jump over to, let's see, back to this free cam for a moment. The French rations. I still have a hard time finding much that lives up to those French rations. The ostrich and cranberry sauce was one of the best things that I had ever eaten when I had one of those on a camping trip back in 2015 or so. Let's see. So we've got quite a bit in here that we could potentially start poking through. There's some halal, some totems, some menu C, some old LRPs. I'm just thinking where I might have put that Saudi Arabian ration, because that would be a great one to look into. it might be in an international display box. That would be a fun one to open. Let me see. I have to disconnect this just to get to that box. One moment. All right, reconnected. Everybody hear me all right? All right, let's see. So this is kind of what I'm going to be doing a little bit more of on the channel in the future. Is going to be seeing what the heck we have in these boxes that have been in storage for the last several years. Immediately realized I should have grabbed a knife. One moment. All right, so let's see. Bring this back up. All right, so we've got a case that had been on display up until the time that we had to pack it and move across the country. So let's just see if that's where we had the Saudi Arabian, because that was the only one we had, and I can't imagine that I would have not considered it interesting enough to display amongst the international set. Now, hopefully we don't have too many nightmares in here. Yeah, exactly. Hopefully nothing on top leaked. I'm sure something in here leaked. Overall, it'd just be too much good luck if nothing had leaked. But let's see, we're starting off strong. We got a Dutch Arctic. Wait, this isn't a knife? That's a knife. Okay. So we got a Dutch Arctic. Oh god, what was this? Slovenian? Is this Slovenian? Oh, I haven't seen one of these in a bit. Does anybody remember what these type ABC? I want to say Slovenia. Right, I know these Dutch rations, I just couldn't bring myself to eat it when I got it, and I figured everybody that got their hands on them probably would eventually. So this is one for the museum for display. It's never ripped apart. This was the first Russian ration I ever got my hands on. It was all opened up so that it could be displayed, but it's all still there. This storage job was meant to be a few days or weeks, but things took a turn. So yeah, there's all these little great cans from some of the earlier. So this one's a 1993, but I just always loved these. The groats-based porridge meals, and the tins of fat, and then this. Ooh, of course, already. Let's see. Gonna have to be careful. So this is not a canned hamburger. That's all I know about it. Oh, let's see. There we go. Very much looks like it's pretending to be. That is extremely bulged. Put that back. And Sorry for the slightly awkward position I'm in. I'm sitting at a 1951 military field desk that's part of this whole little setup, and it just has one of those little fold out and drop kind of chairs. Looking for a canned hamburger? Well, I definitely have a bunch of trekking burgers. I doubt they're necessarily edible, but when I find that box, you can definitely have dibs on one. I was never the biggest fan of those. You can find my review on the trekking burger on mreinfo.com. And if you guys aren't familiar, I mean, I'm not a poster there that much anymore, and I'm going to be coming back. Part of it was my own personal, worry, and a lot of other things that I'm trying to get out of my head and come back to the community. So I think I have 700 or 800 posts on there from back in the day. I remember when I joined the site, it was a couple hundred folks, probably 500 or 600 folks, maybe less than that. And it was always the same of us: MRE, Heater, and K-Man, and Steve, and me, and Ken, and all the old guys, just sharing our opinions on Army food, of all things. And then Steve obviously blew this whole thing out of the water and went from the best, the biggest ration review channel in the world, having, I want to say, 40,000 subscribers at the time that he started, to he's at almost 2 million now. And there's nothing, hands down, that's brought, I think, more attention to ration collecting and ration preservation than his efforts. So we've seen the forums blow up. We've seen interest blow up. It's great. I mean, I see, granted, more people are fighting for the same stuff on the internet, but it comes with the territory, and hopefully it means that there's other people out there that are doing it for the purpose that I'm doing it for, and just maybe aren't aware. And hopefully through something like this, we're going to be able to start collaborating, a little better. That's the chair. Nothing big there. I just realized I don't have a lot of space to put all these things, so I'm just kind of find space around. We got another Russian ration in there. Now, is this one Ukrainian or Kazakhstanian? I think this one was Ukrainian. Well, Renee, thanks for stopping by. I'll have to press for more info on what you mean by somebody has to build the rations when I get a chance to talk to you again. I really appreciate you coming by the stream. Let's see. So this one, we've got a PLA ration type 13, or type 13, version 13. These things were all over the place. We've got the 9 varieties, 13 varieties. Some of these were commercial, some of these were civilian. Now, if you want to go back to when we were talking about stuff getting destroyed in the mail, I want to say 3 or 4 of these ended up getting destroyed before I finally got my hands on this one. And, I'm still not certain that this isn't just a civilian store-bought kind of thing, now that we look back at it. But at the time, it was getting our hands on it, a quote-unquote real Chinese Navy ration. So there's a lot of neat stuff in here, and then I'm sure some of it's gonna, there we go. There's what they do. Yeah, we opened your ration, we took out the meat, we put it back together. It's safe now. You won't infect the town with your 1 serving of pork fried rice. Just a bunch of examples of PLA stuff. Let's see. Now we got a little Polish ration, an S5. Everything so far, knock on D ration, is everything so far is coming out pretty much the same as it went in. You know, I did my damnedest for the last couple years to make sure that these stayed at a good temperature and that nothing put pressure on them, and that, you know, when they had to be moved between locations, that it was done carefully and by professionals. And everybody thought, you know, at each stage of this that I was being crazy and meticulous for no reason. But seeing how this stuff's coming out, I'm pretty happy, to be honest. Let me check back in with all you guys. Let's see. Smokey, you've got one of these Navy rations. Do you know if you've done any research? Is it a actual military issue, or are we looking at just a civilian, you know, kind of knockoff at the time? But still, I mean, the contents are, you know, preserved food. So actually, this one's been open. There's nothing that I'm going to wreck by doing this. So it's a little tray. And inside we've got all right. So inside we've got the main bag, which I forgot was sealed. So this has got the heaters and the entrees in it. And then we've got our little pack, 10 grams of something. Probably spices or sauce. A lot of the Chinese rations came with things like mustard greens or pickled vegetables, or you know, just little palate cleansers that I liked a lot of those. I've only ever had a couple of these PLA rations over the years. I've never had one of these Navy ones because this is the only one I ever got my hands on. But you know, they always, at least in the late, I mean, in the 2009, 2010 era, I felt like they needed salt, but that was about it. They were pretty good. Welcome new folks to the chat. Yeah, I'm making myself hungry too. Canceled. Because believe me, another part of why I took time off was to focus on fixing some things with myself, and one of them was that I was almost 300 pounds, and I had let myself get there, and rations, while tempting, were part of that, but just barely, I think. So I'm down to, I think, a much more manageable weight, and hopefully we'll start to actually eat some of these again. I really can't wait, and just going through all this. You know, I just have to be careful and track it and be, you know, make healthy decisions around it, because it gets easy to, you know, be 3,000 calories deep in an afternoon and not realize it. But, you know, you save one of those for once in a while. With that in mind, just a shout, who all was in Virginia that night that we busted out every spare and random thing that we all had at the time and dumped them in a heap and just started going to town. I know you were there, Smokey. I don't know. I know, K-Man, you were there. One of the best parts of that trip, I think, didn't we get back to like 1904 cigarette-wise on that one too? That's another thing. I quit smoking years ago, but I probably would say okay to one super antique cigarette every couple months or once a year or so. Oh, by the way, I'm just flying through these and didn't even say, I pulled out a set of Australian rations. Just double checking. So we've got a CR1M and a PR1M here. Ooh, and these are heavy. These are always heavy. The CR1M is combat ration, one man. It's a 24-hour ration, and the meals are ready to go. They're fully hydrated, and you just, you know, you can heat them up and eat them, or you don't have to. And then the CR1M is the PR1M is essentially the patrol equivalent, like ours. It's the freeze-dried variant, so it's a little lighter for each of the entrees. But they don't actually make the ration lighter; they just cram in more items. So you end up, well, I mean, they make it a little lighter, but for the most part, it's still a great big heavy package, crammed full of fantastic food, really useful calories. Howdy to new folks, JW, Kaylin, Marilyn. Well, some of you have been here this whole time, and I just didn't get to say hi earlier. Just double checking anybody. Gail, I know I didn't say hi. Howdy, welcome. And anybody else I'm missing, feel free to call me out on it. Let's see. Oh, we got some Japanese Defense Force rations. These are fantastic. These are one of my favorite things just out there. Always been a big fan of Japanese food in general, so getting to try the military ones was fantastic. Here's some older varieties of, let's see. Actually, this one's Korean, I believe. I have to double check. Anybody remember offhand? I want to. It's hard to tell. I'm almost certain this one's Korean. Oh wait, there we go. There's that. I think that's the ROK symbol at the top. And looking at, let's see, this one's definitely Korean. So yeah, that other one was too. This is one of those bibimbops. These used to be, I don't know, $3.50, like $3.50 a piece on eBay, and you could get 10 of them shipped from Korea for $20 or something ridiculous. On top of that, so it's definitely changed. So these I've eaten, I don't know, probably 10 or more of those just for fun over the years, before I stopped trying to find them. So we got a Canadian food packet light meal combat. That's definitely an interesting one. Only one of that in the collection. Another little Canadian one, I think. Yep, we got a 1983 Canadian ration. Just a supplemental. And in case it needs mentioning, a lot of these rare rations are thanks to folks in the community reaching out and making sure the museum had a copy at some point. So definitely going to be going back over all our records and making sure that we have some way to publicly thank everybody that's done that, and put up there, the fact that everybody's trying to get this thing going. So no data's been lost, no pictures, no anything like that. It's just there's been a lot of life that got in the way, and we're going to correct it. We got a module A. This is not one of the ones with liquor in it, but this was the best example of the vacuum seal holding that I ever found. So I held on to this one, and it's still very tightly holding on this whole Italian one. Had a couple of those come through the collection over the years, and it's sometimes you get some. Oh, hey, Sticky Fingers, how's it going? Welcome. I've had a couple of those come through, And some of the oldest ones, I have some 1980s ones that they weren't anywhere close to edible, but they're worth having in the collection, and they're emptied and preserved and ready for display. I mean, eventually, I'd love to be able to put more than one or two of each, each country we've got up there. Some of the early days attempts at the IMP, these predated, what we saw for a while in the early 2000s. So 90s into 2000s, got a bunch of Canadian stuff. Let's see, we're getting closer and closer to the bottom of this here. And I haven't spotted Saudi Arabia just yet, so here's hoping. But, I mean, I guess worst case, we can always go into another box. So... Kalen says, I've got a 1983 German emergency ration. Oh, is that one of the metal tin ones with the piece of tape wrapped around it? One of the West German? Wait, no. East German? What the heck did they call the NVA? No. Green cardboard box. If you ever get a picture up on the forums on MRE Info, or if it's already there, shoot me a message. My direct email is, oh wait, now I'm on the other camera. Well, it's in the bottom right of your screen. Sean at rationmuseum.com. You can always get me. And we've also got other specific emails, but I'm gonna cut you in on a secret right now. Everything at rationmuseum.com that's out there in the world that you email right now goes to me. So we're gonna hopefully get some teams attached to this soon, so that social media and Twitter and all that, which exists, but they'll actually go to someone who's gonna make decisions about social media campaigns and make decisions about sharing this stuff. I did sign the museum up for Reddit and Twitter today with that in mind. So, thankfully got in and got our username on those. And did some poking around with the channel. Hopefully that didn't give anybody any trouble trying to get here today. I changed the name of it from the Military Ration Museum to just Ration Museum, which is just our doing business as name for making it a little easier for folks, but the official legal name is is just Military Ration Museum. In case you ever need to look anything up on us or anything, we're on Charity Navigator, we're on GuideStar, and you can look us up directly through the IRS. So far, it's a lot of boring nothing because we haven't really done anything that required moving vast amounts of money around. So our financial reporting year after year is essentially just, yep, we still exist, and we'll do something soon. So thankfully, though, that step of doing that, since I incorporated and went through the process of getting the nonprofit status, that kept it, and that was a huge undertaking initially. So being able to just stay in that status is important, and I think now that there's such a community behind all this, we're gonna be able to pick up and run with that a lot easier than if we say we're to try and start a nonprofit right now in this climate, when we know that it's probably not the best time to need any bureaucrat services. They're running at a minimal capacity in a lot of federal and state departments, and they have to a very high degree more important things to do than process paperwork. So I'm glad that all that's behind us long ago, and not something that's going to get in the way of the next couple stages of getting this up and running. So let's see. 3,000 cookies. Oh, that sounds wonderful. About 50 calories worth of one cookie, and that sounds good. That's a fun topic. Who else loves the dwindling resource out there a little too much? Cookies, chocolate covered. The military delicacy. Those are one of those things that I can't say for certain that I get my hands on one that it's going into the museum collection. I'm going to eat it, even on this diet, and I still have quite a few. I just have to find them in here. Those and the like the freeze-dried peaches and the freeze-dried cherries from the 80s. Those were the greatest things, and they still are. They still are. You find a freeze-dried peaches that's held, or a freeze-dried cherries that's held this whole time, it's going to be fine. It's amazing. One thing I know that I do have a ton of that I'd be willing to trade away or send out, when we get things going, just to see more people get to try them. I just recently opened up a case of pound cakes, 80s pound cakes. So I've got like mint pound cake and lemon pound cake in the the nearly black, dark green ones, and they're fine. They're fine. So that being said, I should probably say a bit, disclaimer wise, as a representative of the Ration Museum project, I do not encourage any person to go out and consume food which could be harmful to their person. Please be careful when around expired goods. Please know what you're doing. This is not an endorsement for just trying 40-year-old food. All right, we can point to that. We can say we did our due diligence there. Now to talk about eating 40-year-old expired food, because it's great. And everybody should do it at least once. Just make sure you have health insurance first. Make sure you have an underburdened local emergency system and a means to get yourself to the hospital should anything go horribly wrong. But old food is great. Yeah, there we go. If you're ever worried and you need it to be fully tested thoroughly first, send it to Old Smoky. He'll chow down. He'll let you know. All right, so this is one of those. This is from Steve, years back. This is a South African ration, and from 1993, and it was open, and we can get the box out, but overall everything's still in there, and it's in great shape. I'm going to be more careful with this than the Chinese Navy one that we opened a bit earlier. Now this, you can tell there's definitely been some. Ooh, I'm gonna have to wash that in just a moment. There's a little leakage on that chili con carne can, but overall, this is still in great shape. They had all these just extremely generic looking white labels, and I can tell that one of the first tech things I'm gonna need to do is work on light and readability and all that kind of stuff. But overall, I think it's coming through pretty clear. But yeah, it's like you're walking into like ultra generic grocery store ramped up to the nth degree. Like, I loved all this stuff. Just white tea. That's it. That's all it says. White coffee. I mean, it is a South African ration, so you can make your own background jokes about why everything had to be white, but it was South Africa in 1993, so things have thankfully started to get better since the time when I believe was Nelson Mandela still in prison when this ration was made? Was this 1993 ration made while he was on while he was being held as a political prisoner, essentially? Yeah, you gotta love that moment, you know, when Smokey or Steve or one of these reviewers has that, you know, yeah, this is no good. Yeah, there's no. Okay, Lauren, no, yeah, this is terrible. There's something that's just amazing about you guys' fortitude to cross that line for our benefit. You know, I tip my hat. I as you can tell from my reviews on the MRE Info forum, they're pretty much all safe bets that I'm going to consume food that won't murder me. Real quick, I did get some grease from that bulging can on my finger, and I just want to be safe before I touch a bunch of other stuff. So I'll be right back. All right, let's see. There we go. So, actually, let's go back to that one. All right, so we were looking for that Saudi Arabian ration still. Let's see, we're down to the bottom. I'm not thinking it's in this one. We got a Spanish emergency ration. It's just a supplemental with some compressed food, but you know, it's a great packaging, really neat little ration from 1991. Best before April 1993, so I think we might have missed out on that one by a little bit. Yeah, I'm not seeing Saudi Arabian here. I think I have some ideas. Danish, I think. You got this Danish ration. I had another one of the same menu, the pasta bolognese. I want to say this was one of the best rations I ever had. The Roggenbrot, the little shelf-stable packets of rye bread that you get with these, everything about it. The Danish ration was fantastic. All right, catching up on chat. Let's see. Watching and crocheting. It's I have quite a few friends that crochet and talk about the world eater and the patterns that arise out of all that. So it's some pretty interesting stuff. You know, it's amazing when, you know, your friends in the corner of the room and it's just starting out, you know, with just some yarn and chatting, and by the end of the night, you know, they have a whole sleeve done on something that they're working on. But let's see. So we got I'll definitely check on that email. I just saw you said you sent over an email with some pictures. I appreciate that. I'll be able to jump over to that in a bit after this. Well, happy birthday to your kid, Smitty, and thanks for jumping in. I look like I might be Latvian. I have not heard that before. As far as I know, and I've never done the 23andMe or any of that, As far as I know, I'm mostly Irish and German, but as far as people know, seems like it's a whole bunch of nonsense these days, because as soon as anybody I know actually looks into their past, they're everything they didn't think they were, and barely any of what they thought they were. So I'd honestly be interested, but I have no idea. Oh wow, you had a 1990. You just ate a 1998 RCW Dub C. Is that what you're saying? Because those are harder and harder to get. But the fruit soup, I mean, even just some oatmeal. I really enjoyed those. The Mountain House entrees. Oh, I might like the Latvian ration. That makes a lot more sense. I love those. Those are the only, I think, in the last 4 years, like while I've kind of had to be on hiatus, those are one of the only foreign ones that I've continued to eat once in a while, just because they're still pretty accessible for 17, 18 bucks sometimes shipped from Latvia. I love those things. The stews, the crackers, they're just good. They're really savory, and for a foreign ration to try something completely different, I think it's still one of the more approachable ones to actually get your hands on and enjoy. In fact, one of my coworkers, who actually does have Latvian descent, his last name is Ujupis, and actually, I think there's a country called Ujupis, like a little micronation, that is some breakaway former Latvian republic. But we got an older, or mid 90s, I want to say, British ORP here. Oh, bye, Smitty. And welcome to anybody new that's just joining. So this one still complete, as a good good example of some of the things that have changed. Now that right there, I wish I could just tear into it, but not gonna get to, since that's the only one I have in the collection. But I'm sure lots of folks are familiar with the Quiggins Kendall mint cake. Oh my God, just amazing dessert there. We've got a German 24-hour ration, the EPA. These things are, I mean, honestly, there's very few European rations that I've had that I wouldn't say jumped out as fantastic. And who knows, maybe some of those have changed. I apologize. I was just talking all about Latvian rations, and the whole time I meant Lithuanian. I just saw the word Lithuanian come through the chat, and immediately went back to that's what I'm talking about. Latvian, I don't believe I've had. Lithuanian is what I was thinking of. Those are those like chicken stew and the like sauces divinas, or however, I don't know how you would say that, but yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Lithuanian, not Latvian. Sorry about that. I don't know that I've actually had Latvian ones. Didn't want to miss your question from a minute ago, Rachel. Or am I thinking of opening this to the public? Absolutely. This is the restart of the whole project. Its original end goal was to be open and taking visitors. In 2016, we were open to the public for 5 months in Bozeman, Montana, as the second floor exhibit of the Montana State University Library. We had about 200 pieces out on display and some posters for about 5 months, and that's the last time that the museum project's been able to have direct visitors. Our goal had been to open in Bozeman, Montana, 5 months in 2016, and then we had about 200 pieces out on display and some posters for about 5 months, and that's the last time that the museum project's been able to have direct visitors. Our goal had been to open in Bozeman, Montana, 5 months in 2016, and then we had about 200 pieces out on display and some posters for about 5 months, and that's the last time that the museum project's been able to have direct visitors. Our goal had been to open in Bozeman, Montana, but a lot of circumstances changed. Everything with my life changed, and because up until this point, it's pretty much solely. I mean, it's mostly sat as what I personally have time to do and what I personally have time to move forward with it. Then it moved with me when I made a life shift and went east, and it's kind of been on hold since then. So this is the rebirth of it. We're bringing it. We're bringing the project back to the forefront, and we're going to prevent that from being the same problem or from having the same problem. We're going to make it so that it's not just one crazy guy's project. It's going to be a group effort by people that are committed to bringing the history of this to the public. And I had mentioned a little earlier in the stream, the eventual goal is when we have an actual museum that is open to the public, that people can come and take tours and see our exhibits, that we want to staff disabled and returning veterans. That's our main goal in the long run. That's our main community-driven goal in the sense of that's the actual good that I want to see it do in the short term. I think there's a lot of good that's going to come out of sharing the information and sharing access to all of this. But I think we're also uniquely positioned in a way that we can add to that, which is another fight to keep going. So in the meantime, we're going to be doing virtual exhibits. We're going to be doing traveling collections where we take portions of all this and package it carefully and share it with other museums and let them build micro displays within their overall collection. For instance, find a war museum in DC and set up a Vietnam era specific display that goes along with a Vietnam era overall presentation that they're doing. We have a lot of what ifs and ideas to put together, and I think that the more people that we bring into this project, the faster we're going to be able to make some progress on that stuff. And if anybody happens to be in Philadelphia, I'd be more than happy to have you take a look at any of this in person, as long as we have some time to arrange it up front and that sort of stuff. There's a lot here that hasn't seen the light of day in a long time, and even though it looks very bright where I'm at, this is all artificial, of course. There is no sunlight that touches any of this for the entirety of its storage. I don't want the boxes fading or getting damaged by UV over time. So this is jet darkness when I'm not here. Let's see, missing a lot of folks. Indonesian rations. I've only seen those on some of the review channels. I've never actually tried them. You've got some Kazakhstanian and some Indonesian. And howdy, Fred. Welcome to the chat. Sorry if I didn't catch you earlier. Old fig bars is something that Smokey's saying he's into. The mid 90s RCW fig bars, they're either one of the best things you've eaten, or they're just kind of, I don't know. It depends on whether the sugar inside crystallized to that, is this glass or is this sugar state? And I think there's some old Canadian IMPs where they actually had a printed warning on the package that the sugar inside could do that. Actually, let me see. I might have one of those from what we just recently pulled out. No, okay, not in that set, but I know I definitely have somewhere. There's a case over here that says, I'm gonna have to get better at moving this thing around. All IMPs. Oh, there we go. So I bet you that would be where I'd find the ones that have a don't eat this, it's broken glass. Or do eat this. Sorry, do eat this, it's not broken glass. Or something to that effect. Kind of warning on them. Well, hey, we're right next door, Fred. All right, so let's see. I'd love to have you up here in Philly. That'd be great. Like I was saying, I've got family in Virginia, but I guess then we realized you're still another 4 or 5 hours from there. But hey, I'm up for making that trek too. Um, you like the crunchy sugar on the fig bars? Well, then we're a match. I like the ones that survive that process. So if there's any indication that from the outside, they can be yours. Am I near Route 95? Yeah, I'm right off 95. 6 blocks. 6 blocks off 95. Oh, here we go. Another Russian ration variety. Just another general soldier's ration, similar to the plastic topped ones that we were looking at earlier. See, we got a lot of stuff here. A lot of stuff. This is one of about 50 boxes like this. This is why this has to happen. There's just so much of this that's just been hiding from the public for too long. Like this is going to be great. So this was the means of storing these rations for the longest time, and then it kind of just upgraded to the shoebox, and made it a little easier. So same kind of contents. Oh, here we go. I was going to say, this is going to be a Pac-Man. So this is a Dutch, just general 24-hour ration. There's some leakage, looks like, maybe. I believe this is already open. Yeah, this is already open. Most of these display ones, the box was sitting behind the spread out, contents of the actual ration when it was on display, just so people don't want to come to the museum to look at the box that has all the cool branded stuff in. They want to see the neat Starlight brand matches from Holland. They want to see the the fruit gel or the brands of whatever that it's coming in a totally unexpected different kind of variety. So let's see, we made it to the bottom of this. We got an RCIR, French combat ration. This one's actually fully sealed. It's without pork one. I don't know if that'll come through. I think they still do that. So this one was chicken tahini, tuna fish, and potatoes. Like I said earlier in the stream, I think the ostrich and cranberry sauce was my favorite one of those I ever had. Maybe my favorite ration I ever had. Okay, man, were you talking about that Dutch one? Is that the leaker you spotted? Because that's the only thing I looked at that looked rough so far was in this box. And I'm assuming that's going to be something down inside. So down towards the bottom in the front there, it looks like it's probably going to be maybe a pate. Yeah, I think no, that's looking pretty good. It might have been something from the outside. I'm seeing some grossness on the let's see, on the end of, oh wait, the camera's over here. On the end of this FAM, which, I got you, fam. I got you right here. But I think it might have come down through from either one of these fruit or from one of these pate have to double check before everything goes back. But so far, it looks like it might have been something external. I'm not sure. I just love that brand. These are just sugar tablets, slight citrus flavor, I think. Just give me a moment. Let me get all this stuff back inside this particular ration. And Kaylin, that ostrich one, since now I know you've had one too. And later, CT, thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it. Looking forward to get to know you. Yeah, that RCIR ostrich, when I saw it said ostrich and cranberry sauce, I had a very specific kind of taste profile in my head before I opened it up, and I was very surprised, but it's the best, the best with cranberry sauce thing I think I've had. I really didn't expect it was going to be so muted and savory, and it's not like what we would say, turkey and cranberry sauce. You'd have a very specific profile of what that should taste like in your head, and then you say ostrich and cranberry sauce, and it's more like giant beef bird with tomatoes and spiral pasta. It was very different, and it was amazing. And I wish I could get my hands on another one of those someday. I'm sure they're still out there. We got another variety of Russian ration. Always love saying Russian ration. I had a Russian display. I've got some Russian space food and stuff too before the spacefoodtube.com or whatever that company kind of just flooded the market. But hey, if you haven't had one of those, try one of those. Those are really decent facsimile, or they're supposedly made by the same overall company in Belarus, or I want to say, no, it's something attached to one of the cosmodromes, but supposedly it's the same exact thing. But I've never actually busted open one of the 2 or 3 actual Russian space program, tube foods, when those publicly available, commercially available, I should have said, just facsimiles are there. Those are the only ones I've actually eaten to try and say, oh, here's a example of what it would be like to eat a Russian space meal. I think I've got that up on MRE Info too, but yeah, I don't think I've ever actually eaten any of the real. No, I know I haven't eaten any of the real ones. Just they're too hard to find. I have borscht. I think that's one of the only tube ones I have, is a heavy blue metal tube of borscht that's hopefully still in there. We'll see when we get to that box. I got a question about, do I have a Yugoslavian ration? I have one. Oh. And I'm going to bring this box down just because it's the most likely next place to check for the Saudi Arabian that I'm now on a quest to find. Oh, before we get too far there, let me get this last item out of here. Let's see. We have one more ration in here, and that, no way the camera's going to pick up the text on this. This was almost impossible to read brand new, but yeah, you can't read the text on this, but you can tell it's Spanish Army ration. So let's get this box down there. I think this might be where I have the Yugo. Nope. I lied. That's not where it is. This is... Ooh, there is a There's a heavy smell coming out of this one. I would not at all be surprised if it has to do with this. I know there were some nightmare reviews from some of these SRGs at one point. Oh, the chest of drawers. Yeah, this is this whole desk that I'm at right now is about Korean War issue. It folds up into itself. The chair that I'm sitting on folds up underneath, and this whole surface clamps onto the front of here. And yeah, we've got our inbox, outbox, service records, all that fun stuff. You may have seen that same box sitting behind, not this exact same box, but the same style sitting behind Radar O'Reilly on MASH. He had kind of a makeshift desk, but they had pieces of the field desk around them during the series. I think they had another one or a smaller one behind Colonel Potter too, or Colonel Blake. I can't remember at what point they introduced that to the show. So just catching up here. Welcome to the Chat Readiness Reviews, and anybody that I've missed. The Polska broken can debacle. I mean, I may be thinking of that same thing. I remember there was somebody's review, probably around 2014 or something, maybe 2013. I don't know exactly how far back, but yeah, something inside had busted, and when that outer bag opened, the whole thing just had liquid inside, and it was just a nightmare for everything left in it. And I've had that happen quite a few rations shipped internationally that sit in that limbo period. You never know. So I had a CR1M that came as blown apart liquid nonsense, and that was a shame, because these things aren't easy to find, or at least they weren't back then. Hopefully some of that's changed. I know back in 2016, folks like Black Dog Bob were making it a little easier to get some foreign stuff into the country, just getting some of it in bulk, and trying to make better contacts outside the U.S. and using his knowledge of shipping other stuff in to kind of help bring us a little bit forward there. I know for years I tried writing and calling different people in customs to try and say, how do we do this without it being how do we do this without it being a giant hassle? Let me go back to just one camera here for a moment. Oh, yeah, there we go. So how do we make sure that we're doing the import process in a way that isn't gonna cause problems, but also how do we make sure that customs and immigration don't necessarily try to apply very broad rules that aren't meant for ration collectors to ration collecting? There's a lot of fear that we're gonna somehow contaminate an entire town full of people, because that's what the laws regarding the importation of foreign beef or the foreign pork or whatever it happens to be, that's what they're there for. So trying to find, like, hey, is there a process by which we could apply in advance, get a number that we give to the the person on the other side, or get something to print out to include when it gets to American customs that says, oh, this is being imported for a historic preservation group that doesn't intend to eat it, that kind of thing. So that was definitely something. There were a handful of back-to-back incidents that kind of disheartened me a little bit in trying to get the rarer stuff shipped in. There were at least 2 complete shipments from overseas of just like Holy Grail kind of stuff, and large-scale shipments of a dozen rations or more that just did not make it. And it was usually because they got that big. It was always a tactic to try and break them up and have smaller shipments coming in if you could avoid it. But that being said, stuff like that that 10-man, that came through just fine, and that was from Ollie. Well, it wasn't from, Ollie helped me out a lot on that one. I bought that one on German eBay and shipped it to Ollie's house, which I was trying to remember his name earlier, and I hope he's still. Oh my God, Gundog! Hey, welcome to the chat. It's been a while. So yeah, it was it was a little easier because I had someone in Germany that understood rations, understood packaging, and he just duct tape shelled the whole thing. I think it was plastic and then duct tape shell, and it showed up duct tape shell camping supplies, and it was 40, 50 pounds of food or something like that. It was just brilliantly done. That was probably back in 2015. I want to say I had bought that on German eBay, shipped it to him, he repackaged and he shipped it over. And plus, DHL pricing, sometimes you can get a much better deal that way than trying to arrange it yourself outside the country. Let's see, we'll do back to here. Nope, all new. Like I said, do this off for the moment until we decide what we're going to dig into next, but I'm going to catch up on chat for a second. Let's see. Yeah, it's just weird little inconsistencies in these foreign policies. Kalen saying, meat's no, meat's no good, but fish, yeah, fish is fine. Fish is fine. Who cares? And it's like, but why? What? I mean, and I'm certainly never going to be one to argue to say, let's make more things hard to get inside the country. I would go the other route and not say, well, this rule applies to this, why not apply it to fish? I'd say, well, if it's safe with fish and we don't have a big problem with fish, and people aren't constantly dying and saying, that one ration that I got with fish in it killed, this whole town, then maybe we could relax a bit or find some way for people to sign their own waiver or something. But it sounds like I might have touched on a bit of a nerve there with a lot of folks. So we've all lost something. Overseas, in an overseas deal. It seems like, oh yeah, I should. Sorry, Housel. Housel is his name on the forums. Thanks, thanks, Smokey. All right, let's see. The New Zealand entrees. I see mention of those. Those are fantastic. Are they still making, or is that same company, that same pouch company in New Zealand still making the CR1M entrees? Does anybody know? They were fantastic. All the lamb ones were just, I love those things. So let's see. Yeah, I'd say compared to 10 years ago, things may have gone up in price for sure in a lot of cases, but the availability and just it seems like the luck people are having getting stuff through is just so much better. I mean, it used to be probably 1 out of 3 would be gone, and 1 out of the other 2 that survived coming from overseas would be cut open and tampered with, and you'd have a crapshoot of gone but still there, gone but still, or like some of them where they, like where was that one I was showing earlier that they chop the bag apart, take out pieces of it, and hand it back to you like that. Oh, here we go. So we get those border protection and customs, I mean, and I don't even know if they bothered putting the tape back on anymore. But at least back then they're like, yeah, we took stuff out of here. We just kind of cut right through it. But we taped it back up for you, so it's fine. It's fine. Same product. there was a period there where we ramped up production on a lot of stuff in 2007, 2008, especially a couple years after Katrina. We restocked a lot of stuff. We reproduced a whole ton of extra rations. We were, and when I'm saying we, I'm just kind of casually saying United States military production mindset, not me specifically. I should state that. So like the United States was cranking out more and more humanitarian daily rations. They were cranking out more UGRs. They were trying to crank out as much as we could in case we needed another stockpile for, another Katrina level, like major catastrophe where the National Guard's just handing out food to people to keep them alive for months, and a lot of folks, in the southern central United States, I'm sure, have less than fond memories of having to line up and get cases of, at that point, sometimes a couple years out of date already, rations and stuff. I know folks were getting handed out the early gen yellow humanitarian daily rations, and then into the salmon ones, and all that kind of stuff, on top of just getting MREs and LRPs and kosher rations and whatever the heck the stockpiles were just dumping out into the world. Let's see. Lithuania's got a halal ration as well. In the U.S., they're some of the best ones I've ever had. The lamb jalfrezi, that one was one of my, that one blew me away. Smokey's saying they're doing the same thing we were doing back then. We're cranking up production again. I can see how we would have to. Even if just to turn normal food goods into stockpile food goods, keeping them in a state that they're going to be accessible for a good long while. Yeah, I would agree, Smokey. There's just risk. Every time you're trying to get something from overseas, sometimes you roll the dice and you just say, "Here's hoping." I mean, I can't pretend that like the items that you see that you pay for and that you expect to show up in the mail that never get there, I can't pretend they ever really leave your brain. There's still individual things from 2006 that are just floating in the back of my head. Like, man, I really wish I had those British fruit cookies or whatever the heck it was that I was buying in bulk and didn't show up. But yeah, that kind of stuff. Smitty, the only yellow HDR I have, I want to say came from Steve and was opened up for a review on his channel, and I've got the remaining pieces for display. But yeah, those are, I mean, they were hard to find before. I can't imagine there's a lot of those floating around out there. It's just crazy that there's so many places selling MREs now too. I'm seeing some chatter about a couple different sellers and stores and stuff. There's it's great to see a lot of these harder to get rations just available in a commercial sense. But I'd be a little more upset if I bought, say, a full 24-hour Polish ration from a U.S. supplier, and they're still trying to say they're not going to guarantee it's good, or something like that. It's like, oh, no, I'll take the risk myself overseas, but if you've done the imports, I'm expecting as a commercial reseller of this that you're going to guarantee that your product's good and stand behind it. So that kind of stuff. Hopefully that's not still a thing out there. I'm a little worried. I've made a mess for myself, but other than that, I think this has been a pretty successful start. I did really want to find that Saudi Arabian ration, and it's got to be here somewhere. I mean, I know it's here somewhere, but there's a lot of kind of large collection boxes amongst everything. So I figure as we're digging through them, once I was getting towards the end of packing, it'd be like, oh well, there's a space about this big in the middle of this whole stack. Well, okay, there we go, and we'll figure out. It's only going to be packaged for a few weeks at the most. Was the mindset I had towards the end of it. So it's going to take a while to get all this stuff reorganized, but I can't wait to do it. It's going to be fun. There's a lot here. And with that in mind, let me switch over to this camera for just a second. Oh God! Before I do that, Smitty brings up a good point. You can't talk about yellow HDRs without talking about the reason that there are no yellow HDRs anymore. So, in the super early days of Enduring Freedom, actually, I don't think it was technically Enduring Freedom yet. During the shock and awe phase, we were, sending bombers in and dropping daisy cutters and dropping cluster munitions, and the cluster bombs sometimes had the unpleasant effect of not detonating in the drop as they're supposed to, but they'd break up into their hundreds of pieces, and those pieces were, just about this size and shape and yellow. And so were the rations. So were the humanitarian rations that the next planes would drop for the residents of the towns that were affected by the U.S. bombing campaigns. So we were trying not to have the absolute worst impact on civilian populations that we could, but there was. I don't think anyone intended to do this, but we dropped food that looked and was shaped exactly like cluster bombs, and people went out there and picked them up and blew up. And so it kind of turned into this thing where they'd send kids out into the fields to pick these up after a drop because they could stand to lose one or two kids from a town instead of their adults. Terrible stuff happens in war. There's no hiding that. And then around 2002, 2003. We were remanufacturing them as kind of a almost pink color, the salmon ration, so as to completely distinguish them from the yellow ones, and to make sure that no one had any reason to run out into a field and pick up anything bright yellow going forward, because I guess it was easier than changing everything else. But let's see. All right, so we will just kind of take a look around the museum closet. I mean, it's really just an archival warehouse kind of storage kind of space, but just take a quick look. Let me back out to where you can see this. So there's the mess I've made for myself. Just kind of sticking wherever I could while we were working. But here's the wall of empty cases. These are just a wall to help block out any light coming in here. There's a set of windows behind that, and in between the cases and the windows are about an inch of layers of cardboard, just to make sure that no light's getting into the back of them. Got some civil defense stuff amongst the collection. I'm sure you're seeing some CD logos throughout. Not CD, but C, Charlie Delta, whatever. Some Civil Defense Administration logos. So there's a lot of survival crackers, survival biscuits, candy, that kind of stuff from the late 50s, early 60s. We've got Down there in the corner, you can see a olive drab heavy case. It's a officer's mess from Korean War era. That's one of those, really rare, unique little amazing chunks of, the ration history. Quartermaster Corps kind of just finds. So it's serving trays and bowls and utensils and cups and pitchers and everything for 8 officers, and just kind of gives them a little bit of home. So you can see I've got some lights in here at the moment, so you can't see 100% of the room, but just got examples of a lot of stuff tucked away in here. Some of those massive, and this just getting up there so that you can kind of compare in size versus a regular, like a 80s and 90s case of MREs. This was one of those massive ridiculous boxes for the LRP. This one I want to say, how many was this? 16 meals, and then I have another case just outside of here. That's, let me see if I can grab that from where I'm standing without decoupling everything. This is another food packet long range patrol, but you can see it's a great big square case, and this one was 40 LRPs in one case. So they experimented along the way with a bunch of different sizes and shapes for that, and then we end up. Oh wait, no, that's not a LRP. That's a more. We've got LRPs in this pile somewhere. Oh, here we go. That's where we're at now. Just a normal looking ration case, same as the MRE, MCW, LR. Well, yeah, that is the LRP. More kosher, the halals, the humanitarian dailies, all kinds of stuff come in that standard size these days. But if you were talking about ration case sizes, let's see if that's a little better. If you were talking about like the case sizes in the 60s or the 50s, I'd be amazed if there were 2 things made in even remotely similar boxes. I think we learned over time, the efficiency of being able to plan storage and shipping around the exact same shape item, is really useful. So you can see there's some books along that line, like Modular Operational Rations, B Unit, something, at a bunch of different points in history. You can see that evolution of delivery systems, and you have to go chapter by chapter for how we store this, how we deliver this, how we fit these into the truck, how many of these can be acquired in how much time, all that kind of stuff. So there's certainly not one of everything out there, but there's a lot that we've picked up, including some of these wooden crates, of a bunch of varieties. Pretty much everything you're seeing is original. The only thing I think I've got that's a reproduction specifically is this D-ration crate, in terms of things that I intended to keep and display. And that's because that was a prop in the movie Fury. And inside we've got a bunch of additional props from Fury, thanks to a contact we had in the film studio in the UK that was doing those scenes. And they were able to put some of this stuff aside and give it to the museum for just the cost of getting it shipped over here. So that was one of those great little moments, and I want to make sure that people can see and enjoy that. Right now it's just a wooden box, but inside there's some cigarette packs and K ration packs, and I think there's an M ration in there. I mean, all reproduction boxes for the movie. If anybody remembers that, uh, Brad Pitt, Shia LaBeouf, and Bernthal. I always forget his first name, but the guy from Walking Dead, Shane from Walking Dead. Uh, yeah, they were in a movie about being in a Sherman for a day, and that's really the movie. And I don't know, I don't recall it having the best reviews at the time, but I always liked that movie quite a bit. All right, so let me just jump back into chat for a little bit, and then I think we're gonna wrap this up for the first stream and start looking at everybody that's reached out by email and start putting together the next steps. But I'm not sure overall that yeah, I'll be able to do this, every single week. But right now, that's what I'm going to plan for. So let's plan on same bat time, same bat channel. Let me switch to this one actually. So yeah, let's plan on, for the at least the short term, Sundays at 5 Eastern. We'll get together. We'll see what we got in here, and we'll try and have some actual focus behind things. Oh, and welcome to the stream, new folks. Let's see. Got to run and feed some starving cats. Well, I'm really glad that you got to come by, and you're picking a good time. Like I said, we're wrapping up. Oh, that's just my neighborhood. I don't know if you guys heard that, but I'm doing the best to insulate sound here. But there's going to be cars going by and motorcycles going by now and then. Overall, I hope the video came through clear and the audio came through clear. This is all kind of makeshifted, but bit by bit we're going to get better at doing all this. And then I want to start actually doing some longer form videos on these individual items and what their individual historic value was, and some more in depth. Not necessarily like let's eat this, but let's talk about this particular company that made matches for the U.S. military between 1936 and 1972, or something like that. Piece by piece, we're going to start adding some context to the overall picture of ration history. Because, like I said in the beginning, this really it's a passion for me in just sharing all these little discoveries that about how these changes that had to happen so that we could mass produce food to keep people eating on the other side of the planet, while they're at war. How it's changed so many ancillary pieces of our day-to-day lives as a result. Thanks for all the encouragement. This is great. You guys are a great chat the whole way through. I just got to say, I appreciate everybody that's come by and engaged and calm me down every time I have one of those moments where my brain's trying to tell me to, apologize for whatever. But thank you very much for keeping me on point and for coming and taking part. And I look forward to doing this again, and I look forward to working with some of you. And if you've got friends and family that want to help out a nonprofit with a good cause in terms of just lending some expertise and some of these fields that we're going to need help with, like just general bookkeeping and general business practices and communication and all kinds of stuff, please put them in touch. We do have the ability to accept donations through PayPal and through the site rationmuseum.com. Don't rush out and do that just yet. If I'd like to have some actual goals and tracking on the site to show what we're gonna do with every dollar. We did have a fundraiser during that ration meetup back in 2016 and earned a few $100s for the museum, which is still in the museum's bank account today. And I want to make sure that we're as transparent about all that as possible, and that when we're ready to get to that point that you can all be confident that it's going to go to a actually truly thought out good cause. And when we get there, you can always get receipts for donations because, like I said, we are a 501c3 recognized charity, and that is our overall goal. So I think I agree. This was a great effort here. This was a great idea on the part of Smokey, pushing me into trying live streaming to YouTube. I'm separately doing a little live streaming on Twitch for a personal project that doesn't have anything to do with rations, and I think this is going to work out, much better than that in terms of this is a good platform and a good community, and I look forward to meeting more of you more directly from here on forward. So thanks again, everybody. I'm gonna call it here, and I will be back on, like I said, next Sunday at 5 p.m. And at least for right now, that's going to be the schedule. So in the meantime, feel free to check out rationmuseum.com, and feel free to reach out to me at Sean@rationmuseum.com or volunteer@rationmuseum.com, and hopefully you can start staying up to date by watching notifications on this channel and by watching the Twitter, which we will be using at something up there-ish. There we go. Which we'll be using as just trying to get the word out too. So just really appreciate every single one of you being here. Thanks again, everybody, and I will talk to you in a week.